Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Design on Purpose. Design on Purpose today for product UI design with Headspace. We're so excited. We have Terrell with us in the building. Go ahead and let us know where you all are tuning in from. I'm super excited. Again, like I said, this is an amazing session for you to dive into the particulars when it comes to product UI design. Now, we are live on both YouTube and LinkedIn, so whatever platform you like to view us on, that is totally fine. Again, as you can see at the bottom, it gives you an example of how you guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves and let us know again where you are tuning in from. Again, welcome, 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 welcome so very much. Take a moment to also share this broadcast. Let folks know that we are live. If you know of anyone who is very interested also in careers within design, specifically within UX or even product, go ahead and let them know. But first and foremost, we definitely want to say Happy Black History Month to everyone. Y'all, I feel like this has been like the longest Black History Month in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Normally it just goes by so fast, but I'm super excited, again, for us to be here, especially with you all as well. So welcome, welcome again, family. So specifically, we definitely want you all to know that your tech family should totally start with us. We have an amazing mentorship program that is absolutely free for all of those who are interested in careers within design, interested in careers within software engineering, data science, and also if you want to go into the PM space as well. We are only taking about 40 people. So if you are interested, go ahead and log on to our website, mentormecollective.org. You can go ahead and click on mentorship in the navigation bar, and you should see like a square that says become a mentee. Okay, so that takes you directly to our website and to the application. If you are interested in mentoring, because this program is going to mix the traditional career coaching, but also mix the more so technical skills and allowing you to build your portfolio and your resumes in that way as well. So if you're interested in being a part of that as a mentor, there is a section in the same space where you can go ahead and click Become a Mentor. And again, we will be so excited to have you all here as well. So first and foremost, I noticed I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Chanel, the CEO and founder of the Mentor Me Collective. I am a software engineer by day, but by night I do things like this. I help folks, first generation Black and Latinx, get into tech. I've been able to do that with over 200 people, totaling about $22 million in total compensation. So it is my goal to continue to decrease the Black wealth gap and Hispanic wealth gap by making sure that we allow resources to be equitable and accessible across the board. So the way that we do that is by creating a personalized mentorship, also helping with talent discovery when we partner with different companies, but most importantly, making sure that we are creating global impact as well. So super excited with that as well. Again, we talked about sharing, so make sure you go ahead and click to share, let folks know that you all are tuning in and have tuned in as well. Just quickly, we have announcements. Specifically with these announcements, we just wanted to dive into our reminders. So now that we have events happening every month, especially multiple events happening every month, we definitely want to make sure that you all do not miss it. We get so many messages and emails from folks saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed it. So one of the ways that you can do that is by texting texting MMC to 866-901-1914. That will allow us to jump right in, and you will have a direct text message that is sent to your phone letting you know when we go live. For those of you who have had that awesome opportunity, you guys can go ahead and just let us know if you all got that notification by opting in as well. And when you do opt in and you send us your email, you also get a wonderful coupon code that you can actually use in our Etsy store, which we'll talk about a little bit more in just a moment. Again, text MMC to 866-901-1914. And again, here is our Etsy shop. So as you all know, this is Black History Month, and so we have some exclusive, amazing Black History Month merch on our Etsy shop. All these proceeds go directly to techies, first generation techies who are having hardships when it comes to purchasing devices and software. We've been able to raise over $3,000, but our goal this year is to raise $10,000 so that we can be able to help with purchasing devices, software, child careers in design is not cheap, okay? So we definitely want to make sure that we have a pool of finances so that if anyone needs and they've expressed that need to us, we're able to be a blessing in that way. One of the ways that we can go ahead and do that, again, is by visiting our Etsy store, purchasing an item. And if you do get that, if you do go to our Etsy store today, before the end of March as well, no, sorry, before the end of this month, y'all, you can go ahead and type in free ship, all caps, no space, and it will give you free shipping on your orders, all your orders. So even if you want to do multiple orders, every single order with that promo code will give you free shipping. Okay, so all of that information is there. You'll notice that we have a plethora of different kinds of items, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, laptop stickers, even down to the blankets. The blankets are fire. Even the tumblers are fire. I bought one, I think if you guys were viewing earlier last week, I actually gifted it to my uncle because now we're trying to get him, to leave the steaks alone and go to the vegetables. So now he's doing smoothies. And so I said, this could be a good way for you to just, have your smoothie. It's really good. It keeps your contents cold as well. And so I just encourage you all to lean into that too. So as you know, it could not and will not be an MMC event without a giveaway. All right, y'all. So this year for Black History Month, we are giving away 4 different items. One item from our shop, any item, sorry, y'all. It's been a long day. But any item from our store, you guys can go ahead and click, and we'll go ahead and provide you with the code that will get you that item for free and ship directly to you. We're also giving away HomePod minis as well. One, not the Apple Watch, but the Apple Watch band. You all may or may not have known that Apple launched an exclusive line for Black History Month, and we call that the Unity Band. So if you guys have an Apple Watch and you have been thinking about getting that, why not let us get it for you? And then lastly, we are promoting health and self-love. And so we definitely want to make sure that you guys have an amazing water bottle to keep you hydrated and fully melanated. Okay, so this is the Hydrate Spark water bottle. It is a smart water bottle that allows you to track your water intake, also lets you know how much water you should be drinking per day if you want to have like a certain weight goal. Also allows you to compete with your friends, which is also amazing as well. So if they have one, you guys can go ahead and become friends. But my favorite thing about this water bottle, and I have one as well, it lights up every time and vibrates every time you need to drink the water. So that's a really nice way to let me know that, okay, I need to get in these 16 ounces or 32 ounces or however big the size of the water bottle. I think there's multiple sizes, but I digress. So if you guys are interested in that, here's the way that you guys can go ahead and enter in the giveaway. Make sure that you attend the design sessions. And the way that you can do that is by letting us know that you all are at our photo booth. So we have a virtual photo booth, and the next slide is going to allow you to go ahead and aim your phones at it and scan the QR code, but that is how you're going to go ahead and let us know. There's multiple frames, multiple stickers, and you can just go ahead and let us know that you've been here. Also, the next thing is by grabbing a pen and pencil. So we will be sending a quiz at the end of this Design on Purpose stint. And so anything that is said today is full game. Okay, so today, yesterday, last week, we're going to be testing to make sure you guys are paying attention. So make sure you're taking notes as well. And again, in order to kind of participate in that, you do have to be opted into our text campaign, because that also will be giving you the alerts. And last but not least, you do want to make sure that you're staying connected with us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, LinkedIn. So if you are viewing on LinkedIn, again, make sure you share. Okay, tell a friend to tell a friend. But most importantly, make sure you hit that follow button so that you guys can be notified in the next season when we do have more events as well. Okay, here is the QR code. Oh, there we are. Here is the QR code where you guys can go ahead and aim your phone at it. It should take you directly to our virtual photo booth. And yeah, just let us know and tag us in your photo when you do share it on any social media platform, letting us know that you all had a really great time as well at this session. This is some of the pictures that we've taken earlier last week. So again, we have different kinds of styles as well. Again, we talked about texting MMC to 1914. That's going to make sure that you get the giveaway quiz link as well. And obviously also making sure that you're just staying connected on our social media platforms. Okay, now for the main event. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Terrell Griffin. He is absolutely fantastic. I had the opportunity of meeting Terrell and working with him with Where Are the Black Designers, another bomb initiative. If you have not kind of gathered yourself into their community. They're on so many different platforms, but specifically, the most powerful platform to me is the Slack community. It's like you feel like you know everyone. It's like a family. So definitely make sure you go ahead and visit watbd.org. And it should take you directly to that, and then you'll be able to see all that. So look at me over here navigating y'all. But anywho, this is where I've met him. He's absolutely fantastic. He's a senior product designer at Headspace. He also is an amazing plat dad. I mean, y'all, this man he has all the green thumbs, okay? And then also on top of that, he has the heart of a gentle giant. He's so powerful, but yet so humble. So I'm so excited to formally introduce you all to the man himself, Terrell.
What's up?
Hi, Terrell. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have some incense lit, so.
Well, that's fantastic. As you all can see, he's so chill. He's so laid back. He's like, listen, I'm just chilling. I'm calm, cool, collected all the time. I love this about him. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you know you wanted to go into design?
It's a pretty straightforward journey for me, at least. So I kind of wanted to be a designer ever since I was like maybe 9 or so. Didn't really know what it was at the time, but I kind of stuck to it. And I ended up working with my godfather who owned a print shop, and I got a lot of my creative suite chops with him and a couple of summers at his print shop. So that only kind of strengthened my thirst for design, and then really jumping into what design is as a practice once I got to school back home in Connecticut. So yeah, it's not like a journey where someone kind of wants to be a lawyer or a doctor and then kind of stumbles into it. I kind of wanted to be a designer ever since I was a kid. So it just happened to work out for me.
Child, as y'all can see, honey, I'm shocked. This is a whole new information, honey. But this is really cool and so amazing as well to see how design was also like a part of your family lineage. And so now you're kind of taking on that what's that? The relay
mantle.
What's it called? There you go. That mantle. Thank you for finishing my words. But yeah, I'm super excited, and it sounds like it's pretty much an amazing journey thus far. Y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and hand over the baton here to Terrell. But Terrell, take it away.
Cool. Hey everyone, super excited to be here. This is an awesome initiative that Chanel and team are putting on. So I hope to add some benefit to everyone kind of listening in. Once again, my name is Terrell Griffith. I am currently a senior product designer at Headspace, and I will be walking you through what UI design is in a kind of 101 lens. Some quick facts about me. I was born and raised in Connecticut. Not much going on in Connecticut. Not many people even remember that it's a state, but I love it dearly, and I will always rep my home state proudly. I moved to Los Angeles a couple of years ago, technically a little over 1 year ago in 2020, to just be close to work on the West Coast over here. Super amazing city, really different than what I'm used to. But the weather is great, people are great, awesome food, especially if you're a vegan like myself. And as Chanel mentioned earlier, I'm also a director for an organization called Where Are the Black Designers? Super awesome initiative that kind of hopes to pump in more Black people into the industries. There's definitely a lot of roles that can definitely be filled with more Black designers, and our hope is to one, create community around Black designers, but also just show more of us. And I'm currently doing a project on our Instagram account where I'm kind of highlighting designers through history and walking through some of their work, all the barriers that they broke for people like myself to pretty comfortably become a designer or be a designer in today's world. And yeah, so far it's been really fulfilling to see all the great feedback around people learning so much about the history of Black design, especially in this country. Really quickly, my journey post-college. So I graduated in 2016 from a really small school in Connecticut, and immediately kind of jumped into a web agency called Miller Smith. It was one of my adjunct professor's agencies. where I was doing web design for a while. About a year and a half later, that was acquired by a small company called Define Inc. I quickly shifted from doing web design into designing promotional merchandise, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was kind of like hoisted upon me. So I took it upon myself to kind of rework my portfolio and resume, and was lucky enough to land a job at ESPN, which turned into a role at Disney, which owns ESPN, if you don't know, where I was able to work on primarily ESPN products, but also had a chance to work on some ABC News products, as well as the recent National Geographic's app redesign. Amazing projects there, really loved my time there. But yeah, after a couple of years, I decided that it was time for a change, and was lucky enough to land a role at Headspace, where I'm currently a senior product designer. And yeah, just packaging that is UI design, and that's what I'll be talking to you about today. So this is a 101 course. There is so much to talk about when it comes to UI design specifically, but I wanted to make sure that I covered the basics with this presentation. I will kind of show a resource at the end to kind of walk through the rest if you're interested in kind of digging deeper in what UI design has to offer. But of course, we have to talk about what UI design is. So at its core, UI design, which stands for user interface, is a place where interactions between humans and machines occur. What that essentially means is whenever you're interacting with a machine, whether it's usually through a screen, but it could also be with your voice, for example, you're operating that machine via a user interface. And the main goal of a UI designer is how can you make it as easy as possible for a user to kind of complete a task. And that's what you're trying to achieve when you're trying to be a successful UI designer. So inside UI design, there are a lot of characteristics that you need to look out for, but I wanted to focus on these 5, at least for this part of the presentation. These 5 being clarity, familiarity, consistency, forgiveness, and efficiency. So clarity is probably one of the most important things ever when it comes to UI design. You want to make sure that whatever you're designing, all of its elements need to be clear. You don't want to confuse your users with elements that they need to kind of decode the meaning of. You want to make sure that you're using things that people are familiar with, and I'll touch on that in the next one. But just make sure that you're not confusing your users by being unclear with what you're presenting. So this is an example of a not so great bottom navigation for an app. These symbols don't really mean anything to me. I don't know what they're supposed to convey. To help add clarity to these, I would either add a label to them, so telling the user what they should know about these elements, or just using icons that people are familiar with. The Visco app actually ran into this for a while. They had pretty ambiguous icons in their bottom navigation, and people were kind of confused as to what they meant until they kind of tapped on them. You don't want to have to rely on member or users basically hunting and pecking for what they're searching for. Your job is to make it as easy as possible, again, for them to get to that end goal or their objective. So yeah, be clear. Connected to that is familiarity. So when you're aiming for clarity, you want to make sure that you're kind of calling upon previous experiences that people are used to. So these are very common icons. So this home icon, this magnifying glass, this person. Usually this means like a home tab, a search or explore tab, a profile or account tab. When you're designing, you want to make sure that you're calling on, again, previous experience that people are kind of bringing in with them when they're using your products. And that only helps make it easier for them to understand what their intent is when they're tapping on something or looking for something. If it's familiar, then they're going to have an easy time understanding what you want to convey to them. Consistency is pretty key. So if you have a certain way of doing something in your product, I want to make sure that you're being consistent with that, those elements. So I have a bad example of a lack of consistency. So if I have this layout for these two buttons, confirm and cancel, I want to make sure that whenever I kind of bring this into another part of the product, that I'm not using a different layout for this configuration, because that only makes the user ask a question of, okay, like, are these different for a reason, or is it just badly designed? And then when you're not being clear, you're introducing some possible misunderstanding when people are using your products. So you want to make sure that you're being consistent from one part of your app to another. And I'll kind of touch on this later as well, but reducing the amount of elements in your product in terms of variation is also really important. But yeah, just make sure you're being consistent. Then we have forgiveness. So this one refers to times when a user might tap on something, and let's say it's an action that they weren't expecting, or they accidentally tapped on something that requires some undoing. Baking in some element to reverse that, whether it's this kind of toast that pops up that says undo. You might recognize something like this from a Gmail, like if you're sending an email, allowing the person to kind of undo or unsend that email kind of 10 seconds after they send it. Or a modal that pops up asking you if you're sure that you want to delete something, making sure that you're baking in some sort of mechanism to forgive users if they make a mistake. And last but certainly not least, at least for these 5, we have efficiency. So good UI allows users to provide minimal input to achieve the desired output. What you don't want to do is unnecessarily get in the way of providing information to a user in as few steps as possible. So I have an example of, maybe this is a module in your profile account for your phone bill or your internet bill, and you're able to see that you have a total of 3 gigabytes of capacity, but you want to know how much you've used so far. I, as a UI designer, don't want you to have to click on this button. It's very easy for me to show both this information and the usage information in kind of one fell swoop. So good UI design kind of does as many things as possible within reason. Of course, you don't want to get too crazy with this, but just make sure that you're allowing for efficiency when it comes to elements in your product. I also wanted to kind of touch on some considerations for UI design. When you're starting to think about a feature or a flow, I recommend that you don't jump straight into Figma and then try to dig really deep into type choice or button styling. Those things will come soon, but after you pin down exactly what you want to do. So my recommendation is for you to sketch out your ideas. I usually use a marker and paper. What this allows me to do is kind of take away anything in my brain telling me that the alignment on my page is wrong, or because I just want to make sure that I'm getting the elements down that I need. And then from there, I can kind of take those sketches into Figma or whatever tool I'm using, and then look at what it could be in terms of its fidelity. So when we talk about fidelity, there's this scale of low to high fidelity. Low meaning elements are as simple as they can be. Lower than this really is like a list of requirements for a page. And then this is kind of an example of low fidelity when you're placing those on a module or a page. And then once you kind of eke closer to the higher side, you're actually thinking about colors you're using, your typeface, the size of your image, that kind of thing. And low fidelity mockups kind of allow you to go quickly. High fidelity is really considered. So each of which have their own pros and cons, but it all depends on kind of what stage you are in your design journey. So hierarchy is really important as a UI designer. You want to make sure that you're pointing people in the direction that you want them to go, whether that's with typography or with action. So I have some examples of a lack of hierarchy in these, where all of these elements have the same exact type styling. I don't really know what to look at first, so I kind of read it from top to bottom. And then all of these three actions kind of have the same hierarchy. And I don't really know which one is most important. So I might have some trouble kind of looking exactly for what I need to do as a user. And then if you kind of flip this and introduce hierarchy back into this and into these elements, there's a very clear delineation on what's most important with this larger and bolder text, and the smaller and kind of thinner text at the bottom being important text. Obviously, you need to be able to read it, but it's kind of the last thing you need to know in terms of information. And then down here, we have a very bold publish button, followed by a lighter edit button, followed by a borderless delete button, which kind of has like a reverse hierarchy order here, but it's very clear that publish is the most important button on this page. A little variation goes a very long way. You don't, as a UI designer, you don't want to go overboard with, this example is showing text, but this can account for everything really. Don't go overboard with variation that only introduces confusion as to what certain things mean. So if I'm looking at this text, I don't know if it's blue because it's tappable or if it's blue because it's blue. It's very clear and clean over here. Like I'm only using a few types sizes. I'm only using one type or font family. I'm only using a couple colors. So you don't need a lot of variation in these things to create hierarchy. There are other things you can kind of add on top of this when you're going for character, but yeah, don't go overboard with your styling. It's a clear way for me as a person in my position to see in a portfolio that a person doesn't really understand the importance of controlling variation in their designs. So get familiar with Gestalt Principles. Gestalt Principles come from Gestalt, who's a psychologist. He studied ways that human beings kind of tend to group things. There are 5 in total. A few of them pertain to design, primarily UI design, being proximity, common region, and similarity. So proximity kind of refers to how we mentally group things by how far away or close elements are to each other. So in this top example, it looks like these 4 dots are kind of in the same group, and then these 4 lines are in the same group, mainly because of how close they are to each other. But when you kind of inverse those things, we have 4 subgroups of a circle and a line. And a more useful example of this could be when you're placing a label above a text field in a sign-up page, for example. You want to make sure that it's close to what element it's connected to. Too often I see elements closer to the previous box as opposed to the pertaining box, and I personally get confused if this first name label is connected to this box or this one. It's very clear over here where there's minimum spacing between these elements, and then you make it really obvious that this is a group, and then this is a group, and then this is a group. Common region, so this refers to using some sort of outline or divider to separate things very visually. So I will kind of show how I can use this background to show 3 groups, and then kind of change the backgrounds to show 2 groups, where I'm kind of inversing the backgrounds here around this group, and this group, and then placing a box around these 3 images they might be, and then these kind of blocks of text, where this now looks like a group and this looks like a group, only because of this kind of law of common region, where mentally we're taking this box and saying, okay, it's enclosing elements, therefore it's a group. Very useful in UI design. And then there's similarity. So if I'm looking at a page, I'm able to quickly see that, let's say that these are all blue. Okay, like this is actionable, this is actionable, this is actionable. We subconsciously rely on relating elements to other elements based on similar features. If these are all blue, I develop an understanding that these are all actionable. Therefore, I kind of see them as a group of actions that I can take in this module. Systematize as many things as you can. This kind of goes back to the variation point, but make sure that when you're kind of adding elements to your design system, you want to make sure that everything's kind of considered, and you don't want to have to make new decisions when you don't have to. When you're thinking about what blue you should add, for example, to your product, you only want to make sure that you're using that one value. You don't want to be using a value too close to it, because it doesn't really make sense, and a user might not be able to tell the difference. So add variation when necessary, and then kind of use a system to make decision making as easy as possible when you're moving into kind of future projects based on the system. Accessibility is super important. It doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. It's very large in its breadth, so I think it deserves its own talk in the future. But make things accessible. I'm going to highlight 2 things today: color contrast and color as a signifier. So based on WCAG, which stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, you want to make sure that normal text size, of which is under 18 pixels, has a color contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. This might be confusing. I apologize if it is, but I recommend kind of looking into color contrast requirements. You want to make sure that you're not using any text and color combinations that make things hard to read. For people who have normal vision, but people who are, say, colorblind, they might not be able to differentiate certain colors from each other. So color contrast is super important when you're making things as usable and accessible as possible as a UI designer. So very important to keep in mind. But also don't rely on color alone. Even if you don't have a color blindness, you still might not be able to tell the difference between colors really easily. So I have an example of this bottom navigation where I'm only using opacity to kind of differentiate these elements. And you might be able to tell, it might be hard to see, but this home icon is full opacity, and then these are kind of pulled back a little bit. You want to make sure it's as obvious as possible, again, without going overboard, that something is selected, or if you're using green to denote positive or red to denote negative, you want to make sure that you're also attaching maybe some sort of icon to it, just to bring home the point. Again, there's that clarity piece that the green means positive and the red means negative, only to kind of add clarity to the decisions that you're making around color use. It should be additive and not reliant for a user. And much more. I kind of went through that pretty quickly. There's a lot that goes into UI design, especially in terms of aesthetic, down to how far or how close elements should be, like spacing, rounding your buttons or not rounding your buttons, and how that kind of plays into different looks and feels for different products. I don't have an example of this in my slide, but you might ask yourself, okay, like, do I want this product to be really whimsical or really serious in its tone? And you can answer those questions by making decisions such as using illustrations for your product wherever possible, or using kind of photography from real life scenarios. And that is kind of like the difference between whimsicality and practicality in terms of seriousness for a product. And this is just an example. But even down to the typeface choices you make can really separate your product from another one. I have a really big recommendation if you're really looking to kind of jump more into UI design. I wouldn't normally recommend a book for this kind of thing because UI design changes pretty rapidly. And what's trending now might not be trending in a year or two. But this book, Refactoring Ui by Adam Wathan, I'm definitely mispronouncing that, and Steve Sugar, they do an amazing job breaking down all the elements, even things I've mentioned today, and a lot more around choices you should be making and things you should be avoiding as a UI designer. And yeah, if you're interested in this topic, then buy this book right now. They're not paying me. I don't know these people, but it does a really amazing job of breaking down UI design. I found it after I was kind of well on my way, but there are some things that I myself learned from this book. And then kind of everything else was, it does a great job kind of putting into words things that I couldn't really describe before myself. So yeah, again, recommend this book. Yeah, that's all I got. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Terrell. This was a very, very well-informed session. So I hope you all definitely were taking notes. He definitely gave some really great tips, especially about the importance of accessibility, which is very much near and dear to my heart as well. So as the questions come in, and definitely you all, we're opening up the floor right now for Q&A. So as you have questions, go ahead and drop them below in the comment section, and we will ask them live. So as those roll in, I have a couple of questions. So I would definitely love to hear about your journey with accessibility. It's not something that's widely talked about or maybe even advocated for. So I would love to know how you got started, and especially when it comes to advocating as well.
Yeah, so it's something that I learned about through work. It was actually at my time at Disney. We all took an accessibility course to understand the ins and outs, and accessibility covers so much ground, even outside of design. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, that's kind of where I got my feet wet in terms of like what accessibility is, and opened my eyes to the vastness of it. But more recently, I've been kind of leading the charge at Headspace to make our product more accessible. So that includes adding captions for all of our audio meditations. That includes making our app not locked to your orientation. So if you're in a wheelchair and you're not able to rotate your screen as freely as a person like myself, making sure that we're not making Headspace a vertical only experience kind of opens the door for those types of users, but also people, for example, who have an iPad and they have a keyboard and it's kind of annoying to them if they have an app that can't rotate with their screen. Color contrast is in there, audio descriptions is in there, voiceover, all that good stuff. So yeah, accessibility is very important. Making sure that whatever you're building is able to be used by as many people as possible only helps you as a business, but also the feedback that we've been hearing from members who are now feeling more accepted by our product has been really heartwarming and only makes me want to kind of preach it louder from every mountaintop I can. So everyone needs to look into accessibility. It shouldn't be like a last resort as a designer. It should really be baked into every decision that you're making from day zero. So
That is fantastic. And especially, I mean, I didn't even think about orientation being a way that we can kind of advocate for, right? Accessibility. I think that's fantastic. And also to hear about the feedback that you all have been getting as well. Mind-boggling. So I hope y'all are all getting into this. We had Antoine earlier talk about like how he's super excited. He just purchased the book that you recommended, and Corinne had also appreciated that as well. And then we have another cool comment here about accessibility always being on dark mode, even on his web browser. Honestly, me too. All my devices are on dark mode. So that's so cool. We have a question here. Curious about how the work of a UI designer can be enhanced by a user researcher. How does one inform, weave, and strengthen the other?
Yeah, awesome question. So UI design is not one corner. It's definitely baked into the entire user experience. So when you're designing interfaces, you want to make sure that your decisions are being informed by previous knowledge or research that comes from your research team in terms of like what methods have worked in the past for look and feel. So for Headspace, for example, we're learning that members really do resonate well with imagery as well as illustration. So we have a really illustration heavy product. But when we're making new features, we're kind of relying on that pre-done research to decide whether or not we're going to go in a illustration heavy direction or relying more on kind of people and faces. So yeah, like if you're not tapped into your research team, I recommend that you do that. Research is really important to kind of set the tone for so many decisions that you make visually. And yeah, that's basically the gist. But yeah, research is really important.
Yeah, I think that is so valid, and I also plus one. And I think that was a really amazing question. So thanks for asking. More positive feedback about the highlight around accessibility as well, and your comment about color should be additive, not reliant. So that's super dope, super dope. So I have another question, and this is I guess going a little bit more towards advice for folks who are currently in the design space, maybe climbing that ladder, but looking to now to get into leadership. So how would you say like one should kind of like plot that road, or maybe that even document like their success throughout their journey, in alignment towards the trajectory of that?
Yeah, that is a huge question. there are so many paths you can take as a designer. Probably the biggest split you can make is like, do you want to continue down the road of being an IC, an individual contributor, or do you want to go down the road of management? I personally don't want to manage people. I really do like getting my hands dirty with design. So I want to stick to the IC role, but there's still like so much room to grow for me after my senior position. So I want to eventually become a lead. And then from there, I don't really know what the cards hold, but yeah, like there are so many things you can be doing now to be preparing yourself for any future progressions in your career. Something you can do, even if you're not looking for a job, you can look around the design world. And again, if I'm kind of plotting and scheming for that next jump up in my career, if I want to be a lead designer in the next year or two, I might look at job postings for other lead designer roles in other companies to see what they're looking for in those positions. And then from there, I'm able to kind of grasp and understand what I should be kind of working towards when it comes to the skills that I want to work on in the meantime. So if I really need to work on my research skills or presenting skills based on what I see from all these job posts that I'm looking into, I can take that information and then apply it to my here and now, and then kind of approach it systematically as opposed to coming to a certain point saying like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to grow. What's next? And then hoping to kind of jump into that. And like preparing as much as possible.
I really love that.
What's next? Given the ability.
No, I said I really love that answer.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. No, I was saying that was good. I didn't want to interrupt you though.
Oh, it cut out. Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh yeah, that was the gist
I
of it.
appreciate it. It's cool. We have another question. When you're doing your UI designs, do you first list out all of the requirements and then make some quick low fidelity wireframes, or do you go straight to creating the wireframes? I guess what she's trying to say is your understanding of the initial designing process prior to making the higher fidelity features. So do you have to have a good grip on understanding that design, I guess, process or system before going into, I guess, modeling the different fidelity wireframes?
I believe what she's asking is like what's required for you to kind of jump into the sketching phase or UI design as a whole. You definitely want to make sure that you have your requirements. If you're designing, say, a weather app, you want to make sure that you have a list of things that you need to include in your product. That includes the temperature, that includes maybe illustrations for the type of weather, locations, etc. And then from there, you're able to kind of take those pieces, quickly visualize. Again, I prefer to jump into sketching, what those could look like in a layout or feature. And then you're able to kind of sketch out entire layouts, kind of reliant on that list of requirements. But you wouldn't go straight into low fidelity or even high fidelity designs or sketching without first knowing what you're including in your sketches or designs. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, me too. That was a good answer though. So definitely let us know in the chat if that answered your question. We have another question. So I've been reading architectural design to stay creative. How have you been keeping your creativity sharp outside of work-related stuff? Daily, weekly, or even regular practice and advice is appreciated.
That is a very timely question. So I've been obviously doing a lot of work during the day. but I'm also pretty involved in Where the Black Designer is during the night. And I felt like I was getting pretty overwhelmed at points with all the designing that I'm doing on my screen. I'm like constantly sitting in this here chair, staring at this here screen. And I'm like, okay, like what can I do to separate myself, not only from this desk, but also from my apartment and like leave. So I signed up for a ceramics class and it started a few weeks ago.
Okay,
And
so
I haven't done ceramics since high school. So I'm like really getting into it, but it's so fun because it's a really humbling experience because like I started off, it was terrible. I was making so many mistakes, and I had to kind of approach it with at Headspace we call it a beginner's mind, where I'm kind of recalibrating myself and saying, okay, like I'm a beginner. I don't need to be amazing off the bat. And once I was finally able to come to grips with not being amazing at the beginning, I was able to kind of learn all the different steps involved, and it clicked a few classes ago. And yeah, so far it's been really, really fun to make stuff with my hands. But
I
I'm also
think that
hoping,
it's so. Oh, go ahead.
I'm also hoping to make like a bunch of planters, like in pots and stuff for my plants, and then grow my collection a little bit more. But we'll see.
You better come on, huh? Black man making his own plant pots. Yes. As y'all can see, honey, the babies is nice and green in the back. Okay, that is so super dope. I'm so excited. And then also, Fida, I hope I'm saying that right. She also said that you definitely answered her question too. So I know we have a couple more minutes before we end. So I have two other questions. This is more so in regards to the junior designers. So what would you say would be a must-have in a junior UX designer's portfolio?
A junior UX designer's portfolio. So
UI. Sorry.
oh, UI. Okay. Yeah, just examples that you're able to dole out, so that I, as a hiring manager, know that you're able to you have a grasp and understanding of trends. Not that trends are important, but I need to be able to know that you can kind of take a system that's already been in place. Like Headspace has a design system. I need to know that you can take that system and work with it to design new features. Also add to it if you have any recommendations. But versatility is really important in a UI design portfolio. Showcasing that you have an understanding of, the basic stuff like typography, spacing, use of color, all the things that are touched on in the book I linked to earlier. But yeah, I think having examples, and there are like challenges you can do as well to make this as broad as you can. But like different examples of like different types of UI design would be really good for me to see if I'm in the role of a hiring manager and looking at a portfolio of a junior UI designer.
That is amazing. Also, so I hope you all are writing those tips down as well. We do have a design system session happening tomorrow, so slight plug. So if you all want to come and tune in on that, that is exactly again what Terrell is mentioning here, and then from there being able to work with those design systems at larger companies as well. So that's fantastic. Now, I guess kind of going a little async and wanting to end on this powerful note as well. So you mentioned your amazing work with Where the Black Designers as director, and doing incredible work, y'all. Like for real, he is so humble, y'all. As you can see, he just be chilling in his whole throne. He just chilling. But I would love to hear about what were experiences like as you have been growing and developing in this community as a Black man. How has the navigation been? What have been like your pillars, like mentorship, sponsorship, advocacy, and what continues to push you to continue to work as well now, again, with doing work with Black designers?
Yeah, so I feel like before I woke up in 2020, I was very complacent when it came to how seemingly hidden Black designers were in the industry, especially in technology. Um, my whole life, I had one Black teacher, and that was in college in my freshman year. Um, so yeah, like representation wasn't always there for me. So when this initial conference came around for the Black designers in June of 2020, all of the feelings that I felt around not feeling seen or kind of going through things as a Black designer, but also like all of a sudden being in the presence of thousands of other Black designers who were going through the same thing, I again like kind of woke up to how important it is to really be purposeful about the work that I'm doing, not only in my day to day, like for work, but also in my outside like volunteering time, which is why I'm involved with the organization. I want to cultivate community by, again, like making it clear that if a person feels lonely, they're not alone in that feeling. It's a very isolating field to be in if you're a Black designer, but just increasing the visibility into the wins and the feelings of other Black designers kind of helps, hopefully, to feel more connected with other people. So yeah, like I can't even describe how much this has empowered me personally. I'm even working on a project with some other Black employees at Headspace for Black people through our product. So it's kind of like leaking into my day job as well, which is really awesome. But yeah, like I feel awake in my Blackness and when it comes to the work that I do. So I'm really leaning into it now.
So, well, you better come on, bro. That is absolutely incredible. And I think what I will say is when you have a career specifically within tech, I can only speak for tech, you can come to a space of feeling kind of comfortable, right? Like the pay is good, the most of the time, you know what I mean, your teams are cool, the flow of work is good, and you can get into a rhythm that can cause you to forget that other people are not feeling that same way. And
Exactly.
especially those, you know, who identify within your ethnic community. And so I'm really touched by what you said and how, 2020 really spearheaded this new fire, this new passion within you to kind of live this truth within different platforms, whether at work, whether outside of work, and even down to even getting more creative, like with being doing ceramics. That's so dope. I'm so like I'm touched. I hope y'all are touched as well, but specifically the Black narrative, the Black male narrative. I think these days we hear a lot about Black women, but we don't really hear a lot about Black men and what they go through and how they need to navigate, right? Because that's a whole different space. And even how men and women interact, right? It's very different. Even those who are non-binary as well. So it's important for us to kind of give space to that. So I really appreciate you sharing as well. Again, like he plugged, he works with this amazing company that helps with mental health. Black mental health is something that is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's been stigmatized for so long that I feel like now this new generation is like waking all of us up to make sure that we are all being conscious of it. And so I definitely want you all to go ahead and check that out as well. Check out Headspace. They're amazing. The people over there are amazing too, as you all can see. And we also do have a Black mental health session happening on Saturday, this coming Saturday, Black on the Scene, where we have like a Black psychologist coming in to give tips on how to continue to create space for yourself, advocate for your mental health as well in the workplace, and also have tech professionals share in that as well. So I hope you all continue to stay tuned. Again, Terrell, how can the folks follow you and your amazing work?
You can find me on mainly Instagram. My handle is attached to my name here, t.griffey. You can also follow along We're the Black Designers on Instagram. It's Where Are the Black Designers, all spelled out. Catch me on LinkedIn if you'd find my name. But yeah, mainly Instagram is my go-to.
Absolutely. Here's his LinkedIn. We just put that in on the screen. You guys should be able to see that. Earlier, we went ahead and put the website link for Where the Black Designers, WATBD.org. You should be able to see all the ways that you guys can kind of plug into that platform as well. And like Terrell said, his Instagram handle is right in his name as well. So super excited, at t.griffey. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow, 6 o'clock, same time, same back channel, with Design Systems 101. And on Saturday, we have an amazing Black Mental Health Matters session with Black on the Scene, again with a Black psychologist and some Black tech professionals just sharing their stories. Again, Terrell, we definitely want to say thank you so much for your child candidness, honesty, vulnerability, and also in terms of your knowledge, sharing your knowledge and your time with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the platform. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, y'all. So we definitely want you all to know that you all can continue to stay tuned. Like I said, with the platform, we have amazing events coming up, even next month, y'all, for Women's History Month. Y'all, we just listen. We have an amazing Software Engineering 101 series. So if you know somebody who is looking to become a software engineer or they are new in their journey, let them come ahead and plug in with us. We have about 10 different kinds of software engineering disciplines that we are going to talk about all next month, on top of 2 other really bomb events that we're not going to tell you all about yet, because you'll know when you know. But we are planning, and I think the biggest thing here that I want you all to walk away with is that you have community, and you have people that want to build community with you. So do not do life alone, especially this tech journey. We don't want y'all to do life alone. So again, if you are a designer, especially that you identify within the Black diaspora, African American diaspora, please head on over to Where the Black Designers. They're absolutely incredible. I met a lot of great people there that I continue to grow with and lean with and grow and glide with, honey, grow and glow. Okay, and so also, again, if you're interested in software engineering, go ahead and head over to our Linktree. You'll notice that we have all of those links in our Linktree as well for all the different sessions, and also for you to register. Again, until next time, we're so very grateful to have you. We'll see you again tomorrow. Same time, same back channel, meaning same LinkedIn page, y'all. We'll be live with Jarvis from LinkedIn for Design Systems 101. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.